Welcome to Cars and Comrades. This is Bryant with a couple quick announcements before we get on to the main episode. First off, we're trying a little experiment this time. Some folks didn't really care for the beginning of the episode where we do the Project Car updates, or at least they just wanted to get on to the main meat of the episode. And in the past we've done timestamps to get to the main topic. But we're going to try splitting things up this week and see if people like that. So this week we're going to have the Project Car updates, and then next week we're going to be having the main episode where we talk about some electric cars and some various news stories. And a big part of that reason is I just haven't finished editing that second part yet. So we're going to put this out rather than, it being late. So let us know if that's something you like, or if you want us to do it differently. I think one person suggested having our Project Car updates at the end of the episode, but I feel like that would kind of screw up our flow. But I don't know. Let us know. You can contact us on social media. It's Cars and Comrades at most of them, Twitter, Instagram. Or you can email us, carsandcomrades@gmail.com. We get a lot of spam on that account, so we'd kind of like to hear more from the listeners. The second announcement that we have is that our hosting company, Shout Engine, is going out of business at the end of the year. So we have to find a new podcasting hosting service. So if you have strong opinions on why you think the Libsyn is better than Anchor FM or vice versa, write in and tell us. We'll probably figure that out in the next week or two, and we'll have some updates for you. But at least the RSS feed won't change until the end of March. So if they are doing what they say they're doing, then Shout Engine will maintain that service up through the end of March, and it'll just forward to the new hosting. So we'll take care of that. I'm kind of glad that I saved the MP3s of all the old episodes, so we can just put them back up on the new hosting. So watch this space. We'll have more updates for you. But on to the episode.
All profit is value extraction, and that means that all profit is theft from you.
Corporate America is on welfare, and we've got to get them off welfare.
The last words on my lips, I am a revolutionary, and you're gonna have to keep on saying that.
Hey, welcome to Cars and Comrades, your socialist car podcast. I should say our socialist car podcast. It's socialist, we're sharing, right? My name is Bryant. We've got Connor, Zach, and Brandon here today. How are y'all doing?
Hungover.
Okay.
For once, not hungover or on drugs.
Hey, and I just had a coffee beer, so I'm on 2 drugs. Maybe more that you don't know about.
Doing great, guys.
So today we've got a few different topics, and rather than list them all, just check the show notes, because I'm not sure what we'll actually get to today. We might cut out some stuff in the interest of time, but
in case anyone hasn't noticed, sometimes we get off topic, or it takes us a lot longer to cover something than we think. And so we'll intro something, and then that intro winds up being very wrong. So, yeah, we're going to try something new. Not telling you, just read the fucking notes. That we write them for a reason.
Yeah.
Basically, the reason we're not telling you is because we didn't plan this very well, so we don't actually know at the moment. We're just seeing where this goes.
Yeah.
Come along with us. We'll find out what we're going to talk about together.
Yeah, we've been working with the Turn Leftist podcast guys for a month now, and they actually have their shit together. And so this is our first podcast in about a month that we've just been doing on our own, and it shows, I think. So no shade on my comrades here. I do have to commend Connor for organizing all the notes and herding all the cats for the Walter Reuther episodes. So
I mean, don't commend me too much. We're going on like part 6 or some shit now. Like, I didn't do it quite right, apparently.
But something to look forward to. I know Brandon has some tea to spill on Walter Reuther in the next one, hopefully.
Which listeners will be hearing in quite a while. It's gonna be a bit.
But I guess let's get started on our project car updates for now. Oh, and by the way, I know someone on one of the social media said that they didn't really care for the project car updates. Well, too bad. It's our podcast. We're going to do it anyways. But we'll put in the timestamp if you want to skip past that,
Yes.
for the next segment or whatever. But what order are we going in? I forgot what we did last time.
We usually end up doing alphabetical or reverse alphabetical.
Yeah.
Right, and I forget which one we did last time.
I mean, it's completely arbitrary no matter what, but like, pick one. Flip a coin.
All right. Connor, you're going first then.
Oh, that's all right. I wasn't ready for that. All right, you got me there. It's been an interesting couple weeks for me. So I'm going to start off at the top with sort of a car update, but I just want to get to it before I, run over and don't have time to talk about it. I recently started watching the Netflix series Formula One Drive to Survive, which I highly recommend to any listeners who might be interested in getting into Formula One. There's, we talk about how our podcast kind of started with all listening to Street Fight, and I know like Brett from Street Fight's very into Formula One. And I've been meaning to get into it. I know there's other leftists that are like into it, but I've been very intimidated about like, that's a whole other thing to learn. I'm not ready for that. I don't think I'm ready for that commitment. So then my partner did decide like, hey, let's watch this thing on Netflix. I was like, cool, whatever. First episode, I'm fucking hooked. I am now an F1 fan, 100%. And I have watched a couple of the Grand Prix live since we've last recorded. So now I am just an F1 junkie.
I don't know a lot about F1, but I've like read and watched a lot of like engineering stuff about how those cars are made. And man, that alone is enough to fascinate me, man.
It is the coolest shit ever. I'm so glad I finally like got into it a little bit. For real, the Netflix series like will really help anyone who's like interested in getting into it and like learning about it. It'll give you a very good start. It's a very good series. Yeah. It's super interesting. And it will make you appreciate like a motorsport that you can literally turn on your TV. Cause like you can't do that with like a lot of other things. So, although today's great,
that's actually the best review that you could give me, because I always find like that initial like figuring out the basics of something like the most daunting part. Like,
yeah, and
the learning curve is always the steepest right there at the beginning, and it's enough to be off-putting at times.
Yeah, so I highly recommend this show. It helps like my partner Megan. She'll like look up like we have a question like, hey, wait, what about this particular thing about qualifying? And she'll look it up, and so like it helps. Like once you have that start and that base, like, oh wait, here's how it works. Like I thought there was like, oh, there's going to be 100 drivers I'm going to have to do. I'm not ready for that. There's 20 drivers. Very easy. I can do that. But like I literally just had no idea. So today's Grand Prix was in Qatar. It was at 8 a.m. this morning, so I had to wake up. So I was a little not happy about that. I hope F1 considers my weekend routine a little bit more in the future. But 8 a.m. is a little bit early for my ass to crawl out of bed on a Sunday. But no, really, it was fun. I'm glad I watched it. So I'm a fan now. So I'm going to talk about that probably more.
Quick aside, this is the race that Lewis Hamilton's wearing the pride flag on the back of his helmet, right?
Yep.
Or was?
Yep.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I will commend, like, look, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, he's a cool communist like us. He's not. But, like, as far as racing drivers go, it's about as good as you get. And I'm pretty sure he is the first black F1 driver ever, because obviously it's a very white sport. He seems like a very cool dude. He speaks up about shit, and that's about as much as you can get. I mean, anyone advocating for
I don't-
LGBTQ rights is good. In
I
my
don't
book.
follow F1 stuff really. Is he the one that kind of got into some hot water because he had the decency to speak up on behalf of other people, or
Yeah, probably.
did okay?
If I were to
I
guess.
vaguely remembered hearing like people mad because they're like, "Oh, stop making cars about your dumb politics."
Oh yeah, he did bring
was
up
like, well,
racism in motorsports and stuff, and like, so obviously reactionaries hated that. So yeah, I mean he's a bit of a lib in a lot of ways, but like you can't expect everyone to be a communist. Like it's just not the reality. But like as far as
don't tell me what I can
well,
expect.
as far as motorsports personalities go, he seems pretty cool, and he is. I mean, he's got to be the best F1 driver in history. I mean, he is racking up the records quick. Yeah, I mean, the guy's fucking really good. It's insane, to be honest. Anyway, so now Connor's an F1 fan, so listeners might hear a little bit of F1 from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, I never really got into F1 just because, like, those cars are about as related to anything that I can drive as, like, the space shuttle is, you know?
Sure.
Like, they're just so high-tech and insane that I have no, like, frame of reference. And maybe that's the reason why, like, when I was younger, I got into World Rally Championship more as a motorsport. Because they actually, I mean, at least they look like stock cars. They have stock body shells. A lot of them have stock, you know, I forget what the rules are now, but I think at one point they had stock engine blocks and heads and transmissions and stuff like that. Or at least there was some homologation. I don't know. Go back to our episode about the Group B rally. I probably got the facts a little bit more correct that one. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should check it out. I don't know.
I'm with you on that, Bryant, though, because I tend to find things most appealing when there's a degree of accessibility,
grassroots stuff, which is why I do like drifting and shit. I'm with you 100%.
Right, or
like I'm with
when
you.
I realized that dirt track racing was something that I could afford to get into. Now, whether or not I do is a different thing. But if I made that decision, it's well within my grasp.
Yeah.
So that makes it way more interesting to me. I don't know how I got into drag racing because that shit is just so expensive, but we're doing it on a weird budget. So, like, yeah, but F1, no, there's no.
I feel that's generally
tight budget on F1.
That is generally how I've been. However, to me, the driving is largely the same. They've got to worry about tire wear. They got to turn. It's got an engine that breaks sometimes. I mean, it's all the fundamentals are there. Yeah, it's crazy engineering and shit, but like at its core, you got an engine in a race car with suspension parts that's got to fucking go around a track. It's cool. It's fast. They're doing shit. It is cool to watch. There's a lot going on. So,
I'm not dismissing you at all.
No,
I'm simply saying like what has been my hurdle up to this point. But
generally,
you have sold me on this effectively.
Yeah, generally that's been my kind of thing too. Is I'm like with any kind of sport, I'm like I'd rather do the sport than watch it. Which I get, you know, but like, I don't know, especially as I get older and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be an F1 driver. Like, it's just not accessible, but like the sport seems interesting. I can watch it. Like, even if I'm not participating.
I also saw some stuff about what the experience of being an F1 driver is more like. And I realized that I would never want to do that.
Oh yeah, probably.
It sounds straight up miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think so. Anyway, so that aside, just wanted to let listeners know I'm now an F1 fan. That happened quick. You can become one too. Check it out, Netflix, the Formula One show. There you go. All right, so now on to the real car updates. You know, of course, naturally off topic, but actual car updates are not great for me. They've been rough. Car was in the shop to have the steering rack replaced with, you know, inner and outer tie rods and all that, which of course is, you know, expensive, whatever. Then they found out that the power steering lines were like warped at the fitting ends, which is not that surprising either. No big deal. I was like, they called me up and they're like, oh, this is like these power steering lines. I was like, yeah, fucking replace them. Like it's got to be done. Like, don't put leaky fucking lines on the car. I just spent all the, like, yeah, I get, like, you got to call me, whatever. It's like, yeah, cool, do it. And they're like, all this shit. So they put it all together. It takes them 2 days longer than it's supposed to. Right. And I'm on a vacation because I planned this, like, everything has been very scheduled poorly, or just like kind of tight, with several different shops involved, plus me like doing a bunch of shit while I was off of work. So they call me. I'm like 2 days late or something. I'm on vacation because they didn't get to it before that. They're like, oh yeah, we're about ready. We're gonna line the car and then it'll be ready to go. I'm like, cool. I will call my other guy, get the car towed over to the other shop. We'll be good to go. An hour later or so, I get a bunch of text messages with pictures, and I was like, son of a bitch, this is not gonna be good. Open it up. And then they're like, oh, it wasn't there when we were doing all this stuff, but we went to align the car and we noticed this enormous fucking stress crack in your front passenger side knuckle.
Ooh.
And I see the pictures of it, and it is a fucking crack and a half. I was like, dude. So it's right where the outer tie rod connects to the actual front knuckle. Right in there, just cracked to shit. And I was like, okay, that's not the most unexpected thing in the world. Okay, drifting and just daily driving puts wear and tear on your fucking car. That's the way it goes. Sometimes a stress fracture won't show up until, until it does its thing. However, this is not my favorite shop, right? So this is the shop that, like, I go to for suspension stuff because they have a fucking rack and they can do lowered cars. I don't really go there by choice. I think they're a little expensive, and I can't help but feel like, hey, every time I go to you, there's fucking problems and shit winds up broken. I'm not saying that they do it, but shit winds up fucking broken when it goes to their shop. And I think the owners drive very nice cars for the amount of cars that go into that shop. So I'm kind of like, yeah, I feel like y'all are, especially exploiting your workers and definitely almost certainly gouging customers. So I don't want to be one, but I have limited options for aftermarket suspension stuff. Anyway, so they tell me the knuckles cracked, and I was like, all right, cool. One, kind of wish y'all had worked on this last week when I fucking asked you to, instead of waiting to the last fucking minute. Because now I'm like, wow, I'm running up against the fucking deadline here, and now you're telling me there's problems. It's like, cool, whatever. I will find a fucking knuckle, get it to your shop, and it'll be done. So I start looking around for new knuckles. I start looking around for used ones. There's that local junkyard that does like performance cars. And I called up them and they said, okay, yeah, we've got a used knuckle here. It'll be whatever, $70 as opposed to like $400 for a new one. And I was like, sold. So I'm like, cool. Can you ship this shit locally to this shop? Yeah, we can do that. Cool. All right. Give them the address, all that stuff. I pay for it. I'm like, hey, any chance it can go out today? By this time, it's like mid-afternoon the next day. So it's like Wednesday or some shit. And they're like, oh, it's going to be a little bit tight, but it'll definitely go out tomorrow. Okay, fine. Cool. Ship it tomorrow then. Here's the money. Here's all that, blah, blah, blah. Then I enjoy the rest of my vacation. We come back home, whatever. I'm all, it is what it is. Then, I'm expecting all this shit to be done come like Monday or something. And so I start the new job driving the Camaro to work, right? So I start this new job, or I took the train the first day because I had to go to the corporate office in the city. So I took the train, and then the next day I'm driving the Camaro to work, whatever. At work, my first day, they tell me, I call them, I'm like, hey, how's things coming? Like, is this almost done? Should I set up to have, come pick this up? Oh yeah, we never got the knuckle. And I'm like, what the fuck you mean you never got the knuckle? What are you talking about? Oh yeah, we meant to call you, but then we got busy. I'm like, you motherfuckers. Call up the other place. I'm like, hey, where's this at? What's going on? Oh yeah. We shipped it Friday. Here's a tracking number. I'm like, motherfuckers, dude. So they shipped it Friday, and apparently it's not they shipped it via FedEx, which is like 2-day, even though it's like local, which normally should be 1 day. So, I lost time there, which was very not what I wanted. Anyway, it shows up the next day. They put it in, and then they're like, oh, yeah, it only took us 2.5 hours. And, oh, we noticed that the ball joints, the lower ball joint that came with the knuckle was bad. And so we took the ones out of your old knuckles. And this, I almost blew a fucking gasket because I had, when I dropped the car off, I told them, about all this stuff. I told them all this shit up front, which we'll get to. But one of the things, when the knuckle was bad, I told them, I just had the ball joint replaced on this knuckle. So please remove the lower ball joint and put it into the knuckle you get. Right? And then they're sending me a text like they did me a favor. Like, oh, yeah, we decided to do this. I'm like, you didn't decide to do shit. I fucking told you they're brand new. Please put them in there. Would you not have?
We did you a favor and followed your instructions.
So that's the thing. I'm like, I'm stuck going to this shop, but like, I really hate going to them because it's like every time I do, I have to tell them things 3 and 4 fucking times, and then they'll call me up and be like, "Oh, we ran into this problem. What do you want to do about it?" And I'm like, "Motherfucker, I told you what to do. Like, what are you doing? I'm paying you a lot of fucking money. Please listen to me when I talk." So I was kind of pissed, and I was like, whatever, yeah, thank you, I guess. Cool. And then it's like, okay, we're going to align the car and it'll be done. Cool beans. I get a text with some pictures the next day. I'm like, oh, you sons of bitches. I look at it. Okay, now, so we tried to move the eccentric bolts in the rear, and it broke off. Now, that might sound reasonable to the listener who doesn't know the background info yet, but when I dropped the car off, and they had a chance to look at it, whatever, and after that they said, oh yeah, well, those eccentric bolts in the rear seem like they're seized. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. They're known to get seized on these. That's very normal. Don't worry about it. They're fine. The rear is fine. The only reason I need an alignment is because you're changing out the rack and all the fucking tie rods. I'm like, I don't care about the rear. It's fine. Just don't worry about it. The rear's fine. It's been fine. They have been seized in a position that is perfectly fine with me. I will worry about changing out adjustable arms and shit next season when I have the money and the time to fuck with it. So I said, don't worry about it. Whatever. So when I get a text telling me that they fucking broke this bolt that they weren't supposed to be touching, I was pissed. And I'm like having this moment of just like, okay, I'm not just going to call them and scream, but like, what the fuck? So I have to text them like, hey, yeah, I need this car like today now. Like I have a fucking deadline. I need the car today. Make it work. I don't give a shit. Whatever. You make this work. It's got to be done. However, it's got to be done. So then, they go, okay, yeah, I might have some extra eccentric bolts or something. We might be able to remove it. And I was like, well, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to scream at them if they're going to charge me for this, because I'm going to have to like get fucking, be an asshole now. Because it's like, dude, I fucking told you, don't worry about it. In the end, they did not charge me for all that. I guess they included that in the alignment. But I was fucking pissed. I was like, y'all should not have been touching this shit. I knew it was seized. It was fine. I'm not worried about it. The rear is fucking fine. So it was super frustrating. And, the whole job wound up being a little more expensive than I wanted. And it was already expensive to begin with, but whatever, shit's done. It drives straight, which is really weird now because I realize just how much I've been compensating every time I hit a bump. So like I'm trying to drive it today and I was like, oh my God, like I would jerk the car every time I hit a bump, and I'm like, I don't need to do that now. And it's very weird. So my driving kind of sucks as a result. So all that. And then last car update, because I've been driving the Camaro to work the last week, the first week of this new job, which I hate driving that Camaro. Eventually I'd like to sell it, but I had a recent setback. I go to work on Friday and nobody else from my team is there. And my new boss was like, hey, is anybody in the office? I was like, no. He's like, oh, well, I guess everyone's working from home. If you want to work from home, you can do that. That would be perfectly fine. Just pack up whenever you want and go home and Finished the day there, and I was like, okay, cool. So it's like around 10.
Seems like something you should have told me before I got here, but thanks.
Yes, I agree. But it's like, well, whatever. I'm gonna go ahead and go home and finish up because I'm just doing training shit. So on my way home, as I'm putting it in gear, transmission's making funny noises, kind of a bit of a whine, which it had started making the noise the day before, and I was like,
Hey, sorry we had some technical difficulties there, but we're back. Connor, do you remember where you were in your story?
vaguely. We were talking about how I was going to work from home, right? So I'm leaving the office. I'm going to go back home, working from home. I'm driving my favorite car, my Camaro. And so I'm almost home, about 5 minutes away. And, the transmission had been making noises that were notable that I was like, I should consider having this looked at some point, but I'm probably not going to like the answer. Anyway, I'm close to about 5 minutes from home, and I'm like trying to put it into gear. I'm trying to upshift, and all of a sudden I'm having a hard time getting to the next gear. And then I'm like, oh, that's okay. I'll just go up to the next gear. Didn't work. Go down a gear. Didn't work. And I was like, uh-oh. So I try all the gears, and my car's just like slowing down as I'm trying to get into gear. And I was like, uh-oh. And finally I like get it into second, and I'm like, oh, okay. I got it into gear. So I go up just a little bit to get to the next light. And I was like, that was weird. This trans has been making noise, and now I had trouble getting into gear. Oof. Hopefully I make it home. So I'm at a stop. It's time to go. And, oh no, I wasn't at a stop. I was almost at a stop, right? So I'm coming up to the red light. It's almost fucking, like, I'm almost up to the line, and the light changes to green. Okay, so I put it into first gear. I'm still rolling a little bit, and I let out the clutch, and then the car stops and makes a bunch of awful noises, and then I was like, oh yeah, pretty sure that's the trans. So don't know what's wrong yet. Maybe it's just the clutch. Maybe it's just the throw-out bearing. But, that car has had a third gear pop out for as long as I've owned it. The trans was making noise the day before. So I am not super optimistic about the diagnosis there. So I may have blown up my transmission. I may have just ruined yet another clutch. I don't know. But I hate that car. It's like not even at 100,000 miles yet, and just about everything major on the car has broken. I think it's mostly because it's a piece of shit, and yeah, super not happy about it. So anyway, this is my first week at a new job, and I literally had to call my boss from inside the car and say, hey, I think my transmission just exploded. It might take me a little bit before I'm back online. So not my favorite thing to tell a new boss. But
Yeah.
Yep, that's my updates. That's all I got. So that's where we're at. The Z should be theoretically mostly fixed. And the vacuum leak's fixed, and it's getting attuned tomorrow. And hopefully it's right this time. So at least I should have that car up running, good to go, because that's the only car I actually care about. And yeah, my Camaro continues to be a piece of shit, is the update. So that's all I got.
And I guess, yeah, listeners, buy Connor's old shitty Camaro.
Hold on. It is very...
Well, see, there you have a conundrum, because if they actually listen to the show, then they know not to buy the Camaro.
Like, if you listen to the show, please don't buy this Camaro. But I'm not going to feel too bad about selling it. It is collectible and desirable, apparently, and I'm sure someone will like it. Someone who has a bottomless pit for a bank account. But that's not me. So, yes, I want to get rid of this piece of shit. Looks cool, though.
I think some insight into me as a person is that when you speak positively about anything on the Camaro, I just want to argue, because I'm like, I don't really like that generation of Camaros, and I tend to be abrasive. And then when you say anything bad about it, I want to just defend Chevy in general. So like, if I have a tendency to be argumentative, just bear in mind that that's going to happen regardless of what you say.
Yeah, so that's what I got. So it's been an eventful couple weeks for me.
All right, who's next?
I don't know. You were randomly picking the order. You shouted me out before we were ready, so I don't know.
So it's your time to randomly shout someone out, I think.
It's Zach's turn.
I like this system.
This is great.
All right.
Okay.
Oh man, yeah, I've had an eventful few weeks in the car realm as well. I've been driving my Ranger pretty regularly recently. It's been doing okay. Still some weird ticking coming from the transmission, but I think it's the torque converter got fucked up when I fucked up the transmission as well. But I have like 2 or 3 laying around, so I'll just stick a new one in when I get some time. It's been driving and shifting, so I'm not super worried about that. But I got in a wreck a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it was ended up being my fault, per the legal definition. But just quick breakdown of what happened. I was going to make a U-turn on a left flashing yellow turn signal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a car in the far right lane. There's like 3 lanes going the other way. Car in the far right lane. So I make the U-turn and I'm trying to stay as much to the left as I can. And I guess the other driver thought that I was going to turn into their lane. So they switched lanes to the left to try to avoid me. I tried to stay to the left to avoid them. We collided in the far left lane. Legally my fault. I can't make a U-turn unless it's completely clear on the flashing yellow. So yeah, I'm at fault.
You're at fault there technically, but also not a great idea to like try and cross someone who you think is going to wind up in a different lane than they're in. That is a questionable judgment for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I was talking to the guy afterwards, and he was like, I saw you turn, and I thought I was going to hit you, so I changed lanes really quick, and to avoid you, and then you were in the other lane. I was like, yeah, man, I was trying to avoid you. I was doing what you were doing, and then we both just ended up in the same spot. So it was just an unfortunate like.
Oh, so which car is this, and how bad was the result?
So this was my Ranger. He hit me in a 1500 pickup, a Dodge Ram 1500. But he pretty much just bounced off of me. I lost my driver's side mirror. The door's pretty dented, and it basically had a can opener effect on my fender and just peeled the metal all the way up.
Oh,
the side of the fender.
Oh no.
But still runs and drives straight. My Ranger's fine. I pulled the fender off, and I've just been rocking no fender, and the door is kind of hard to close. But it's made me remember who I am at my core, because I fucking love it. I love driving around in that trashed old shitty truck, and I don't care that it has no fender and the door smashed. I'm like, you know what? This affects me literally 0% at all. I'm totally fine with it. I bought a new mirror for $20.
My fender on my van's been caved in since I bought it years ago, and I've just never fucked with it because kind of matches my shitty aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly. And like that truck has dents all over.
Yeah. Zach, for a 93, honestly, any 93 and older, doors are hard to close. That's just how it be. So like they're all hard to close when they're that old. So now it's just like it's almost period appropriate.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you gotta like lift up a little bit and slam.
I had to do that beforehand. It's really no different. But yeah, I got a new mirror on it so I can actually see. And I'm like, I'll just like monitor the junkyard every once in a while. And if one pops up in the right color, maybe I'll go get some body panels. But I don't really give a shit.
Yeah, the wrong color works.
I think I'd rather just not have a fender. I think the fender look is better than the mismatched color. It bugs me. I don't know why. It bugs me way more to have the wrong color on there than to have just no fender and a caved-in door.
Okay, so there's a cure for that. It's get into drift cars, and then you'll notice that most of them at the track have multiple colors, and you'll you'll start to appreciate it. Like I love multicolored 240s. Oh, there's something so special about them. So you can cure that.
Oh yeah.
Dive right in.
I think it could work. But I think I need to change more of the body panels to more different colors.
Yes.
Like if I just have like a white door and fender and the rest of the truck is red, I think that looks shitty. But like if I have like a blue fender and a green door on one side and then the other side's like black and brown, that'll work. Great. Yeah, I think that could really work.
I mean, yeah, you can do a lot. You could rattle can one of the like quarter panels or something and and do Yeah, just make it...
Yes, rattle can camo. That's what you need.
Yeah, dude, unironically. I might do that. That's a great fucking idea.
Yeah, lean into it.
Don't even fix the fender, just make it camo so that it's less obvious.
Hey, it already is. That's why it doesn't look like there's a fender there. It's really good camouflage. It just looks like it's not there. It's just perfectly camoed into the under paneling of the truck. Yeah, no, so that was like...
You'll drive by and people will be like, there seems to be damaged fender just floating down the street.
Yeah.
You gotta remember those like Harlequin Golfs from the 90s.
Yeah.
The VW Golfs that they had like 5 different primary colors. I always thought that those looked really ugly, and it was just like, Germans attempting to be quirky and silly, and like, everyone knows that Germans don't have any sense of humor, so of course it doesn't work. But
I knew a guy when I was in high school who was a pizza delivery guy, and he did that paint job on his car himself, and then he gave it like a big spoiler made out of old broken skateboards.
Nice.
Hell yeah. No, I love the Harlequin looks on those old Golfs. I dig it.
I'm not a fan, but maybe I just don't. I'm not really a Volkswagen person, so I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know why. I like it. It's like it's so bad it's good kind of thing. Like it just looks completely wrong.
Yeah, I guess.
One could also argue it's so bad it's just actually bad.
If one were to argue that one would be you.
Well, unless you argue that, and then I'll argue against that.
Exactly. No, so that's my kind of negative car update. Smashed up my Ranger. Still runs and drives though, so kind of neutral in the long run. But I also...
It's what's on the inside that counts.
Exactly, which is a junkyard motor. So,
but a nice transmission.
It is a nice transmission. Yeah, it does have a really good transmission in there that I spent way too much money on for how much of a piece of shit that truck is in general. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, my exhaust from like the muffler back just fell off after that wreck because I guess it was already rusted and shitty. So now I just don't have any rear exhaust section. And the muffler is like right under the cab. So it is loud as shit to drive now. So that's fun. Yeah, but that's the Ranger update. No big updates on my other cars that I knew that I owned, but I was recently reminded that I have a 77 GMC Jimmy in a storage yard that someone that my dad knows wanted to buy to build himself an off-roader. So we sold it to that guy, got a little bit of money out of it. It had a rebuilt 700 R4 and a rebuilt small block Chevy in it with the throttle body injection from a later Blazer that we pulled off. So it was a decent little starter pickup, but the guy we sold it to wants to do an LS swap in it. We're like, yeah, that's cool, man. It's your truck. Do whatever you want. But I guess he doesn't want the engine at all and is just going to give it back to me. So now I've got a rebuilt Chevy 350 for nothing that I just have now. And now the temptation to try to put the 350 into the Ranger and make it work is a little overwhelming. It's a terrible idea.
The 350-700 combo is one I'm a fan of, man.
It's a great setup. Like that truck was rough. It had holes rusted in it everywhere. and like a lot of other issues, mainly with like the body and suspension. But yeah, that engine trans combo is killer, and especially with the throttle body injection, it's great. It was a blast to drive.
See,
And
my one criticism was going to say just rip off that throttle body injection and throw a carburetor on it.
yeah, it came with a carb, and it was just like a pain in the ass, especially since we were driving it up in the mountains a lot. It just could not handle the elevation change at all.
Oh,
Like it would either run crazy lean or crazy rich at one elevation or the other. You know what I mean? Like we couldn't make it work down here and up there. It wasn't having it.
That is one place I will no longer back a carburetor for. I respect that was a problem.
Wait, it was.
What did they do before fuel injection up there? I mean, did
they just rejetted the carbs for that? They just rejetted the carbs for that elevation, and they were just like, "Well, I guess I can't drive down the mountain now." There's like,
what kind of carburetor was it?
Whatever came with the Chevy 350. I don't even remember at this point. We built that.
It would have been a
car
jet if it was factory.
Yeah, it was a 4-barrel. That's as much info as I know off the top of my head. But yeah, we built
as
this
far as it
truck
goes,
like
those
10
cars are
years
impossible
ago.
to work on, but they're actually like when they're working well. I personally don't think there's a much better carburetor than the Quadrajet.
Yeah, it was a good truck. It ran well at Denver elevation, but yeah, up in the mountains it couldn't handle it. It's also a 4-bolt main block, which is pretty cool and pretty desirable.
Yeah,
and we fully rebuilt it. Had the cylinders honed, new pistons, rods, rings, refinished the crank. Really went over that engine. And this was like a decade ago, so that cost like $600. And it was it was a sweet little motor, and I'm glad to have it back, man. I would have given him money for it, but he's like, "No, you can take it. I'm just gonna put an LS in it, and I don't want this thing. So here, have an engine." I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. I mean, worst case scenario, it'll become a coffee table or something. I'll just stick a piece of glass over it, and then.
Well, if it runs, you might as well do something with it.
Yeah.
I mean, put it in Connor's Camaro.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
If we were even remotely like geographically close, I would just be like, listen, I got some money if you're trying to get rid of this fucking thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I could break down a pallet and build a little crate around it and send it to you.
Probably not worth the struggle, given that it's a small block Chevy and a 700. Like they're not hard to find.
Yeah, probably not. But no, it's it's gonna go into something. And right now, the biggest candidate is the Ranger, but that could be a lot of work. So I don't know. It is extremely tempting, though.
Something to keep in mind for sure.
Yeah. If I don't get this Audi running with its stupid Audi V8, I'll fucking drop a small block Chevy into it. I don't give a shit.
Like I endorse this idea. I mean, keep it 4-wheel drive too.
Absolutely. Somehow. I mean, it should remain. It's a standard mounted V8 in it. It's not like a weird. What do they call that for like front wheel drives? Shit, I just forgot the word.
Transverse.
Transverse. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's not like transverse mounted or anything. So.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think anything.
Bell housing adapter different.
I mean, I've seen LS swapped like Lambos and stuff, so it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, people LS swap the Audis that I have. Like I've seen a bunch of people put LSs into those. So, I mean, it's basically the same as a small block Chevy. In terms of size and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it with an LS, then you can do it with a small block Chevy. People will just wonder why.
Yeah. I'm curious how hard it would be to tune the throttle body injection to handle boost. Like, I don't know if that's something that someone has done, but I'm obsessed with putting twin turbos on it. Like that idea.
2 weeks ago, awesome. I was out visiting a friend, and we went by the shop that one of his friends runs to do upholstery.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw a carbureted 672 with twin turbos.
Oh yeah.
It was dynoed at 2,200 horsepower.
Holy shit.
And I'm just like, that's sick, but what, like, abandoned carburetors at that point. Just give me a single carburetor.
Zach, I do know someone that did a supercharged big block with that same throttle body injection system. Basically, they used a whole lot of junkyard parts. It was for a Lemons car. But they didn't have a proper blow-off valve, and it backfired and it exploded the intake.
Ooh.
So they ditched the supercharger after a while.
What kind of supercharger were they running that they were able to still run the throttle body intake?
It was two superchargers from GM 3800 Buicks.
Okay.
It was all junkyard parts.
Okay.
And it worked kinda for a while until it didn't.
Oh, I think I understand what's going on right now. Okay, I follow.
Yeah, and it was like a draw through thing. And I'll try and put the link in the show notes, but it was the Speed Holes Racing Marlin. So it was an AMC Marlin with a big block Chevy from like some truck or something, and then these two superchargers. It was an interesting setup, and I'm not sure what happened to that car. I think it might have ended up in California.
All right then.
That's pretty fucking rad. Yeah, so now I've got to come up with something to do with this small block Chevy. We'll see where it ends up. Maybe I'll buy another car and put it in that.
That's what you should do. Definitely buy another car.
Yeah,
that will definitely.
I think
solve
it's generally
the
right choice.
Yeah, it'll be so much easier to keep control of everything when you have another car to swap something into.
Yeah, for sure. It won't be even more hectic and stressful and time consuming than the three cars I currently
certainly
have.
Not in my experience.
But then the car that you buy to put the engine in will have another engine inside of it already, and then you'll have to find a place to put that engine.
Just buy a roller, man. Find something cheap.
Yeah,
there you go.
That has crossed my mind. I'm like, man, if I could find something that came with a small block Chevy already, that's, a decent chassis, and it's, it's okay as far as rust, and, maybe already has a transmission in it, because I don't know if I'm going to get the 700 R4 with the engine or not. But yeah, that would be a pretty sweet deal, I think, if I could just drop the engine in and maybe flip it, or more than likely not flip it, because I don't get rid of cars. I just keep accumulating them. Yeah, that's definitely an option.
I find that it's helpful to tell people, around you that you have plans on selling it. Oh yeah, I'm going to sell it. I'm trying to flip it. That's what I'm doing. I'm not going to keep this car. I'm just going to try and sell it.
Yeah, it helps a lot, because then they'll talk to you again like years down the road, and you'll say that you still have that car, and they'll be like, "Oh, I thought you were going to sell it," and then you can say again to them, "Oh, I'm planning on it." Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm still planning on selling it.
I just brag about having like a dozen vehicles that don't run, because then everything else that I tell that person will make a little bit more sense in the context of what I'm like.
Yeah, maybe I should just stop lying to everyone and be like, I'm not fucking selling it. No, I'm going to work on this forever, and I'm just going to keep accumulating cars to work on, and I'm never going to get rid of any of them. So fuck you. Quit asking.
You're a collector.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's a nice way of saying hoarder.
No, I looked it up because people kept calling me a hoarder, and as long as things are thematically consistent, you're a collector.
Okay.
Yeah, most of mine are thematically consistent, and then they don't fucking run.
Well, and they're all cars. You're not like collecting newspapers and sandwiches you haven't finished.
Yeah, fair point. All right, I think that's everything I had for updates. So we're just calling out the next person now, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Brandon, I guess. You said you didn't have much to go
Yeah,
over.
I already talked about I saw the 55 Chevy that was making 2,200 horsepower, but that wasn't
Yes.
mine. That was just a cool thing that existed. All of my updates will be passive because I'm very upfront about my mental health stuff on this show, and I've just been dealing with a lot of depression, so I don't really like work on anything. I found out that a while back I did the welding on my buddy's truck to put in the new 4 pans, and he paid me with a van that had been in a head-on collision at low speed, so it did like just enough damage to total it, but like everything on it but the grill was still in good shape. I think the insurance company just didn't really know like what they were dealing with, and they just wrote a check, and somehow they were able to keep the van and so on and so forth. It had a crate motor in it with less than 10,000 miles. So he was like, dude, I'm not having good luck getting rid of this, and you did all this work for me. Just take the van. You wanted some parts from it anyway. You can take the whole thing. Last Saturday, we called the guy that he had left it at his shop and found out that there was a miscommunication. Jeff thought that the guy was going to get in touch with him, and the other guy thought that Jeff was going to get in touch with him. So the long and the short of it is that van got scrapped without anybody being told. So now I'm down a van.
Oh.
Which is the first time I've arguably gotten rid of a vehicle in my life.
That sucks. Like, so, like, how does that work, like, legally? Like, does someone pay someone for that, or, like, what? Or is it just like, well, whatever, it happens?
There's a solid, like, punk community in Pittsburgh, so that, like, if you need a mechanic, electrical work, anything like that, we all got a guy. And this was our mechanic guy. Like, I haven't had a lot of work done by him because I do everything myself. But if I have to break down and have someone else do something, it's going to go to him. It was an honest mistake. Shit happens. We're not dealing with it. Anything beyond it got scrapped, that sucks. Move on with our lives.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, there's no point in making an issue of it. It is what it is.
Yeah, sometimes shit just happens.
Yeah. Other than that, I start back to work this week after like just months of like trying to get started and something terrible happening. So now that I'm going to have an income again, I might buy another 67 Cutlass that I think I might have mentioned before, but I'm going to go back and see the guy in like a week once I've started collecting a check again and see if it's still for sale and if he still wants the same amount. And if it is, I'm taking that.
Sweet.
And then maybe I'll LS swap it because it does not have a drivetrain in it, so it would be a perfect candidate for me dropping like a, what, I think 5.3 or something in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if I go that route, that'll actually probably be a car that I build to be very efficient. I'm going to try and like find out everything I can about tuning 5.3s. I think the 5.3 is the best candidate because it's a smaller displacement than a 6.0, but the 4.8s or 4.7s or whatever they are the exact same bore but with a shorter stroke, and you are prone to getting slightly better fuel efficiency out of something with a longer stroke.
Yep.
So I'm gonna do some research there, and if I buy that car, I'm gonna see if maybe I can't build something that can get me like well into the 20 mile per gallon range, and I can actually like commute.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Have been kind of like a worthless blob lately, and haven't done much productive. So that's me. I'm done.
Well, I guess it's my turn then. I feel you on the worthless blob thing. I did almost nothing yesterday. I kind of just stayed inside and played video games, but whatever. It's a Saturday, so gotta have one of those every once in a while. I have been making some slow progress on my MR2. I got the flywheel resurfaced and got new ARP bolts for that, and I put that in. I don't know, last week, I think. And, torqued those bolts down. And let me tell you, 70 foot-pounds is a lot when you're like upside down, lying on the ground with a bunch of like sharp metal objects all around. So I either need to like work out and like not skip arm day and
I recently learned how much 90 foot-pounds is when you have a flimsy engine stand.
Yeah.
It's damn near turning the whole fucking thing over just trying to get the heads torqued down.
Yeah. What was I going to say? But the thing that I'm having trouble with right now is I want to replace the seals in the transmission before I put it in, and to do that I have to take the axles out of or axle flanges, whatever the term is, out of the transmission. So it's got it's actually the thing that failed on it in the first place. The way that Toyota put it together is I'll call it the axle flange. It's got a splined end that goes into the transmission, and then on the outside it's got a flange with like 3 studs and 6 bolts that are bolted onto the rest of the half shaft. And those bolts and studs are what failed and broke previously. So I've got as much new hardware for that as I can. But the actual flange on the replacement transmission that I'm putting in there, it's stuck in the transmission and I can't get it out. And normally it's just a little like I forget what you call it, not a circlip, but just like a retaining ring that's spring loaded. And you're supposed to be able to just, with like a pry bar or like maybe a little light tap of the hammer, be able to get that ring to compress and, pull the axle shaft out of the transmission or the flange or whatever. I'm having a hell of a time and I'm just like banging on it. And I'm like, since I'm kind of like nocturnal now, working night shift and with the, time change and the winter and everything, it's dark a lot earlier, and I'm like losing track of what time it is, and then I'm like, it's like 10 p.m. and I'm hammering on this thing in my garage, and my neighbors are probably like, what the fuck is going on in there? So I'm trying to be mindful of my my neighbors and not hammer on that at all hours of the night. But I don't know, that's about where I'm at. Thanks again to Zach for loaning me his engine hoist that is still being used like a month and a half later.
Hey, no worries, man. Glad to help out.
Yeah. And also I have my bicycle chain, which is holding up my motor, which I should probably, get a different chain, but whatever. It works. It's not
I apologize. Yet. I apologize for forgetting the actual chain and the load leveler that I have for that. And I can bring that over so that you do not get crushed by an engine. Because I feel like a bike chain is not adequate.
It still does have one motor mount on one side. So, I mean, if anything, the engine hoist is just to keep it up and level and so that the accessories don't slam into the frame rail and, bend the air conditioner compressor off or something like that. So I think it'll be okay, but I've got a jack stand under the engine block right now just in case.
Oh, that's good.
That's about it. But as long as we're recommending stuff,
We gonna make you fight fire with fire fists. We make you fight fire with water fists. We gonna fight racism, not with racism, but we gonna fight with solidarity. We said we're not gonna fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we going to fight with socialism.
Amazingly, or not so amazingly, Cuba's crime rate is one of the lowest in the entire hemispheres. Oddly enough, it seems that when people have their basic human needs met, they're less likely to commit crimes.
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
The free market mythology, it argues that the most ruthless, selfish, opportunistic, greedy, calculating plunderers, applying the most heartless measures in cold-blooded pursuit of corporate interest and wealth accumulation will produce the best results for all of us. Through something called the invisible hand.
What are you smiling about?
Dude, I almost had you.